Okay, so we're checking out Sharky here. Overall, really good job. There's just a couple of little things to look at on Sharky here, and just kind of start here. First thing that you might notice is that your tail kind of stays pretty much the same thickness throughout. When you look at it from the back here, it just kind of is pretty thick. So you may want to actually come in here to this tail area and just bring these outer vertices in a little bit, okay? Just making a nice smooth curve here as you travel down towards the center of the tail. Here, of course, the center is where you want it to be thickest, and you'll want it to kind of thin down as it comes towards these upper and lower areas, alright? So that's just a small shaping thing you'll want to address and take a look at. Another thing on the tail here that you might notice is we have this edge here that's kind of just going off into nowhere, and it just kind of ends right in the middle of a polygon right here, okay? So what that means is actually that now we have a 5-sided polygon here because this edge is just coming through and stopping. So we've got, if you take a look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 edges to this polygon. We don't want that. It does cause problems for us later if we ever have to add anything, add edge loops or anything like that to the tail later on. Our art director might come and say, oh, I want you to make some changes, right in this tail area, and it's gonna be very difficult to do whenever you have polygons that are not 4-sided involved, okay? So let's go ahead and fix that. I'm gonna go to vertex mode, and first, just right here, we can see, we've got something kind of strange going on. We've got this little triangle thing here. It's just not quite how it should be. Things are a little odd. So let's go ahead and let's delete some of these edges and kind of start fresh in this area, okay? So I'm going to grab this edge and this one right here, this one that's kind of creating this triangle. And don't just delete them, because if you do, I'll show you what happens. Let's say I just go ahead and delete them. Even though I deleted the edges, if I go to vertex mode, you'll see the vertices that were attached to those edges are still there. That can cause a lot of weird problems, and that also divides up your edges. So this is actually still a 5-sided polygon, even though it doesn't look like it because we can't see that edge anymore. That vertex is still hanging out there and causing problems. So make sure when you grab these edges, instead of just deleting them, you come up to Edit Mesh and go to Delete Edge / Vertex. Not only will this delete the edges, but it'll also delete any vertices that were associated with those edges, okay? So that kind of makes everything evened out. And you know what, I think it might be easiest in this case actually to just go ahead and delete these other edges as well. So again, we want to go to Edit Mesh, Delete Edge Vertex, alright? And that will solve the problem that we were having there, okay? Everything looks fine there. If we did want an edge loop in this area for some reason, we could just come to Edit Mesh, Insert Edge Loop tool, and with that, my mouse changes to this little pointy arrow and allows me to click on an edge here. It'll instantly add a loop going all the way around. Okay? If my polygons were 5-sided still in any part of this area, my edge loop tool would not be able to function this way. It would get stuck as soon as it came to a polygon that did not have 4 sides, okay? So that's why it's so important to make sure your polygons have 4 sides so that we can very easily come in and just add new things whenever we need to. So I'm going to Z back on all that because I didn't need all that stuff. Alright. Make sure that you hit Q for quit when you're done using the edge loop tool. Alright. If you don't, you'll probably be clicking on other things and it'll start adding edge loops where you do not want them. Okay? So let's move on from that area. And we'll come right down here where, again, we have these edges that are kind of leading off into nowhere. Alright? So we gotta make sure that we don't have these edges that are just kind of coming and stopping in the middle of a polygon, okay? We need to make sure that it continues all the way around. So it looks like here's another one where the edge just comes into the middle of this polygon and stops. So we want to connect this top edge that's coming down this way all the way around to the bottom here, okay? So what we're going to use for this situation is going to be Edit Mesh Interactive Split tool, okay? Again, my mouse will turn to a little pointy arrow, and we'll get this little orange dot whenever we're hovering over an edge, okay? So what we want to do is just go to this little junction here where this edge kind of drops off and just stops. We're going to click on that, and then anywhere I put my my cursor now, there's going to be a little dotted orange line that pops up, alright? And what I'm going to do is just click on the middle of this edge right here, okay? And I can continue along and click on the next edge, and the next one, and the last one I'm going to click on is this junction right here, okay? Once I've done that, I go ahead and hit the Enter key, and what that should do is make those edges that I just drew permanent. So there they are, except for this one. Now, you might be wondering what exactly happened there. Sometimes when we have polygons that do not have the correct number of edges, we get some strange anomalies when we're using that tool, okay, and many of our other tools as well. It'll cause all kinds of problems for you. That's why it's so important to keep our geometry neat. So that was a case of the tool not working correctly because our geometry was not laid out correctly. So let's go ahead and try another technique here to finish this off. What I'm going to do is just grab these 2 faces, okay, that I now have, and I'm just going to delete them, and we're just going to close this gap, okay? So I'm going to go to edge mode and grab these 2 edges that we have right here, okay, at the edge of the gap there, and we go to Edit Mesh Extrude. Now, of course, when we extrude anything, we want to immediately make sure that we move that extrusion, or rotate it, or scale it, or something, just so that we know that it's there and it doesn't get covered up for us to find later as a mistake, alright? So let's just move it something like that, and we're going to kind of sew these, this flap that we've made to the rest of our model here. The way we do that is just coming up to Edit Mesh, Merge Vertex tool, okay? Now the mouse will turn into a little, looks like crosshairs, okay? What I can now do is take a vertex like this one, for example, at the corner here of this flap that we've created, and I can just click and drag over to this corresponding vertex over here on the corner of our model, at the corner of that gap, okay? And then I just release the mouse, and it will effectively sew those 2 vertices into one vertex. Alright, so this edge here is now connected, alright? And these vertices are connected. And while I was doing that, I noticed I've got this extra little floating vertex here. Okay, so always be careful of those kind of things. Get rid of those when you can. If you see any floating vertices, get rid of them. So again, I'm going to go to Edit Mesh, Merge Vertex Tool, and I'm just going to go around this gap, connecting these vertices, okay? Boop, just like that. Once I'm done with this tool, again, I'll want to hit Q for Quit. That will ensure that I don't accidentally merge any vertices anywhere else on the model that I didn't mean to. And now that is all nice and connected, alright? And it's going all the way around up to here. Okay. So everything's looking good there. Let's also do this on the other side. So again, we'll go through it, Edit Mesh, Interactive Split Tool, come up here to this junction, and we'll click on these edges going around until we meet again on the other side. Hit Enter to finalize those edges. And this time we did not have any problems with our tool, so it's all done just like we need it to be. Okay, perfect. So that kind of takes care of that area. It's always a good idea to also kind of look inside as well and see, you know, if you're having any problems anywhere, if there's potentially something going on inside the shark that's causing problems. Alright, one example of that, if we take a look right here at your mouth area, when we go into our smooth preview mode, which is simply hitting the 3 key, okay, on the keyboard, you might see this kind of a divot, this dipping in of the lip right here. Alright, so that's going to affect how your model reads when people are viewing it, or if you were to smooth it out, it won't look quite right with this kind of pinching thing going on. And what's causing that is actually inside Sharky's mouth. If we take a look inside here, we can see these faces right here, okay, that are just kind of tucked up inside the mouth there that don't really belong. So let's grab those and delete them, okay? It looks like there are faces on top of faces there, so there's actually 2 sets of faces, so you may have to delete it twice. Once we've done that, let's go ahead and press the 3 key again, and now you can see that pinching has gone away, okay? And we can hit the 1 key on the keyboard to go back to our regular view of Sharky, alright? So, just another thing to note, we don't want all these little long, thin faces on the nose here. We actually want these to be just kind of a nice little rectangle, okay? Not too, just made out of 8 pretty much squares, okay? So let's go ahead and fix that right now. We'll come to the top here, and let's see, go to vertex. Now I'm just kind of eyeballing this at the moment because I don't have my guides in. You'll of course want to use your image planes when you're doing this, so that you can stay true to your image planes, alright? So what I just did there was just to grab all of these and scale them in the X direction, alright? So that they would all come in line with one another before they were kind of spread out in a rounded shape. We want them to be flat for this instance, okay? And then I'm also going to look at it from the side. And, you know, I might not want these to be quite so thin. I might bring them out a little bit. Let's look at them from the front and see how we're doing. Okay, so we've got some shapes that look pretty much square on the bottom, but on the top we've still got kind of these little thin rectangles. So we'll want to even this out so that it matches the bottom a little better. It should look something like that when you're done with it. Okay. And also with the mouth, the bottom of the mouth down here, we'll want to make sure and actually just bring those in a little bit. Okay. Just want to make that a little bit thinner. Not so much space there. Next thing we're going to look at is, if we look at it from above, we can see kind of all these crisscrossing, zigzagging lines happening as we travel down the length of Sharky's body, and we shouldn't really have too much of that going on, okay? So let's try and see if we can even some of this out. Alright? For example, from this vertex here, we've got one line that's kind of going way off over here, and another that's coming over this way. You may want to take this one and move it to be more in line with its neighbor there. Okay? This one as well we'll want to move. So basically we're just improving the spacing that we have inside the mouth here. Instead of having this big long thin shape right here next to a big giant chunky one, we want these to be fairly evenly spaced. So we want to bring them in so that on either side of this edge we have polygons that are roughly the same size. Just roughly, it doesn't have to be perfect. We also want things to line up in our views so that they're very easy to understand and easy to look at, okay? We'll also take a look at these guys. Okay, so again, for example, what we have right here is pretty similarly sized polygons, and then we get to this little tiny thin one, and then another kind of medium-sized one. So again, we just want to improve that spacing if we can, and just pull things so that we don't get these jaggy lines going down Sharky's body. We want everything to be smooth, natural, flowing curves that follow the shape of the body. So now even just doing a few minor tweaks there, we see we now have this nice gentle curve that's going down the length of Sharky's body, whereas before we had all kinds of zigzag stuff going on. Alright, so definitely pay attention to that kind of thing. Basically, I just want to look at Sharky from many, many different angles, okay, all the time. And make sure that all of your lines that are going around your edge loops are following curves, okay? They should be just naturally curving lines. If you see any area that seems like it's jutting out or jagged, you'll want to then go in and smooth those areas, okay? So even maybe this, for example, on the edge here, it's kind of a sharp angle. We could bring this up a little bit, bring it in a little bit to kind of make it not so drastic, the point of the mouth there. And again here, if we look down the side from this angle, we've got this line in particular going down, up, down, up, down. Over here as well, we've got this up, down, and up again. So we really want to make sure that we're looking at Sharky and trying to stay true to the curves that we've kind of laid out for the outline of his body. And again, here we have this kind of flat line, and then suddenly we're changing direction, and then we're changing direction back down again. So we'll want to adjust these so that they curve naturally. And avoid those really jagged lines. So right here, for example, we have this area where these two verts are kind of almost tucking back in to the shark geometry, so we want to bring those out to improve the curve. This as well, right here, on either side of this fin, we have these kind of lines coming, and then all of a sudden they're going up quite dramatically and back down. So we want to bring those out as well, and down, to help improve that shape. So again, it's just a matter of looking at Sharky from multiple views, making sure that your curves make sense with the natural flow of the body. Alright? And this right here on the mouth as well. First, these should probably be in line with one another, these vertices here. So you want to use the scale tool to bring them in, so that they're matching up a little more nicely. Okay. And then we'll take these middle guys, these inner ones, and bring them in quite a bit so that we're following this curve that we've already established, okay? And it does look a little blocky that way when we did straighten them out. So again, we could, in this case, just bring them out a little bit and bring this in a little bit on the edge there. These inside ones at least should match up pretty nicely and should be following this nice smooth curve we've got established, okay? So that's pretty much it for Sharky. You'll also want to take a look at this tooth here. First of all, these two shapes right here, these are both triangles, okay? So not four-sided polygons, you definitely don't want those. So what should actually be happening here is that these faces right here should all be directly connected to these faces on the other side without these triangles in between. And so the way we can fix this is to use our Merge Vertex tool. We're going to go to Edit Mesh, Merge Vertex tool. And this time I'm going to, actually if we come to Edit Mesh, Merge Vertex tool, I'm going to click on this little box to the right of the Merge Vertex tool. It's going to open up my tool settings window over here. And I want to make sure that instead of having Merge to Target Vertex, which does this kind of a thing, it takes the vertex I click first and drags it all the way over to the vertex I select second, okay? What I want to happen here instead is I want them to merge to center, okay? And so this time when I click and drag, two verts will both move and merge and move to the exact center location between the two of them, okay? So once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and hit Q to put that tool. I can hit this little X right here to close my tool settings window. So I've kind of alleviated the geometry problem, but now shaping, of course, is not so good here. We've got this really thick area going on, so we'll want to grab these outside verts and pull them in quite a bit, all right? And of course, you know, it's not really enough to pull them in and not pull the rest in. Another way we can go, if we don't want to pull everything inwards, is we can instead leave these about there and pull these guys outwards, making them a little thicker, okay? So I think that's what I'm going to do in this case. I'm going to look at it from the side as well, so I can make sure that my verts are matching up from the side. Pull that out a bit, something like that. Make sure these guys match up. That looks about right. Okay, so my top ones here do not match, so we want to bring that in. You really want to make sure that when you look at something from any angle, that when you've got a symmetrical object like this, that things are pretty well aligned from any angle, okay? So from the side, you know, these two verts are on opposite sides of the same symmetrical structure, so they should occupy kind of the same point in space as far as height goes here. So the Y direction in this case, and the X direction, okay? So you'll just want to kind of go through and just tighten these up just by scaling, okay? So that you don't have all these extra lines kind of cluttering up your view of your model from the side. Alright, so once you've done that, that will fix up the tooth for the most part. You'll also want to look at it from the front here, and you should be able to see we have a pretty big spacing issue. We've got these great big giant faces next to these little skinny ones. Now the book, it may have spacing pretty similar to this, but we probably want to just kind of even things out just a little bit if we can. So we can just bring that in just a little bit, something like that. Okay. And once we've done that, your tooth is good to go, and your shark will be ready to lay out UVs for. And so let me know if you have any questions about anything we talked about today. And happy modeling!